Welcome to the Global Landscapes Forum in Accra, where we are restoring Africa's landscapes, uniting action from above and below. And we're here in Ghana, speaking to David Ojay, who's from Kenya, fellow Kenyan.
Thank you.
Thank you. And who is a Kenyan artist and the founder of the NAM Festival, a creative activism platform running the Justice for Lake Victoria campaign. The pollution and destruction of the lake's ecosystem is the motivation factor. NAM means yes in Swahili, and lake in Duolo languages from Kenya.
Yes.
The festival uses art as an advocacy tool for action. I got that right, didn't
Yes,
I? Okay,
thank you,
welcome.
you
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Natasha, for having me here.
Great.
Yeah.
So let's begin with, I understand that your background was first in journalism, but now you've kind of moved to art or creative activism. Tell us about this transition.
Yeah, I started off my career in media, and for a long time I was just doing this because of trying to please my parents. Because when I grew up, I had a lot of love for theater and basically performing arts, because it presented for me an avenue for expressing myself and expressing my ideas and things that I could imagine on my own. So for me, it was that portal where I would just put out my feelings and everything that, you know, came to my mind. And my parents did not quite like the idea of me just, you know, over-engaging in arts and always going for these trips for drama festivals and things like that. So my dad, I remember one day he actually told me, Dave, you have to look for something very serious that will make you be respected in the society, maybe something about medicine talent or engineering and stuff like that. You know how parents actually look at art as if it is this tiny industry that people really hold with a lot of disregard, but it's made me go places, it's made me who I am today. So for me, that passion is what drove me into, creative arts, because journalism was that consolation that I could feel, well, if my parents were alive and they wake up one day and find me behind the cameras anchoring, they would probably feel, he's not become, that bad. He's not that artist, you know. But then for me, it was still journalism, even in art, because what we do is what I want to call edutainment, which is something more than just entertainment, because for lack of a better word, I don't want to do any entertainment as an artist anymore. I want to do something I want to call edutainment, but for lack of a better word, I like saying I am into public therapy, because I want people to come and consume my art with their thinking hats on, so that you come out of it in an experience that actually helps you to become a better person or empowers you and helps you to, start acting differently. Question yourself. Look at reflections about your actions to anything, anyone, and everything. Because at the end of the day, this planet is for all of us to sit in.
Yes. Wonderful. Well, thank you. So why do you think art is an important medium in terms of bringing about climate change awareness, rather than being sort of a sideline? Should it not be leading the cause?
Yeah, I think for me, it's an interesting question. And why art? Because, see, the thing with climate justice or climate issues, sorry to say, but it's such a boring topic. And the truth is, it's a fundamentally right topic to discuss every day in our life. But then how do we break it down so that our people at the local grassroots level can actually understand what these scientists are talking about? You don't just go behind a lab and come up with some really good analysis and then you put it out there in lots of jargon that we don't know about, and we will not even, get the interest to look at this information because it's not speaking to you. But if I'm talking to you about plastic pollution, or I'm talking to you about why trees should not be cut down in a song that you enjoy dancing to, it could probably ring a bell in your head and help you to start imagining that, some of these things I'm doing actually hurt the environment. And this environment is not just only yours. If you have children, do you even think about them? Do you love them? Do you think about the planet they will inherit after you? See, the notion we have is that we inherited this land, but it's not true. We just borrowed it from our children. There's this saying that goes like that, and I love it because if we really cared about science, if we really cared about education and why we take our children to school, then we would be giving a damn about, the statistics they learn, the science, issues that they learn. And we would actually be putting, decisions that actually bring action, that shows tangible, positive direction. But we are not. We are taking our education, our statistics, everything, just at utmost disregard. And that, for me, is the sad story. And looking at all children rising up and speaking against climate injustices is a good call for me. And I think it is time all children just wake up and, just begin calling out people who are abusing the environment in one way or another. So for me, art is just that one tool that can make a very complex concept in environmental work much, much more understandable to a plain local layman on the ground. But what we read about the reports and everything, personally, even with the education I have, I don't find it cool or interesting to consume. So art brings about that interest and breaks it down, kind of deciphers the gravy issues so that people can actually now wake up and realize, so this is what this statistic mean. So my actions are actually really damaging this piece of resource. But we just have to keep going and see how music will do, film, theater, and all these things, including just handmade craft from found objects, where we actually using something called TTO, which means turning threat into opportunities.
Okay.
So instead of, having the hyacinth weed that is killing and choking our freshwater lakes, what we have done is to bring about, sustainable change and make people get attracted to environmental conservation work because they see the money side of it. So once you bring in the agenda of people, planet, and profit, then people start looking at it, with a lot of interest because they see some benefit out of it. For example, with NAM Festival that I have founded, we actually harvest hyacinth that is choking the lake, and then we process the stems into ropes, and then we weave baskets. And right now what we are trying from an exercise I did when I was back in India is the roots of the aquatic weed are very rich for organic manure. And you know what the synthetic manure is doing to our waterways, our rivers and lakes right now, because they have a component of microplastic, which then kind of finds way into our waterways, and at some point this comes back into our food chain. So what then we can do with this kind of innovation is to educate farmers that this is a better version of fertilizer, does not leave microplastics on the soil, it does not threaten our food chain, and this is something that is super rich for plantation growth. And we tested it in India, and it's something I'm willing to roll out around Lake Victoria in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, so that we can empower our farmers using one threat, that is the hyacinth, and killing two birds with one stone.
Excellent.
Yes.
Brilliant. Tell us more about your Justice for Lake Victoria campaign.
Well,
how did that come about?
Okay, so yes, it's an interesting campaign which started back in 2009 when I came back home from visiting Mali. I went for the festival Sulenije, which happens right next on the riverbank of River Niger. And I went back home and I was totally inspired because of the fact cultural activities happening at sites of natural heritage was just an overwhelming, kind of an awesome feeling that I don't know how to even describe it. And then here I am, I travel to my village, I go visit Lake Victoria, and for a moment there, it was so emotional. It was pathetic because I could not see a lake. It looked more or less like a forest, something like a football carpeted pitch that I did not even know how to, comprehend. Because Fishermen were losing their jobs. The fish count was dropping. You can imagine from 380 types of fish back in the 70s, today we only have 45.
Wow.
And I asked myself, what can I do then with my talent, with my art, to let people actually understand, protect, appreciate, and look after Lake Victoria? And that's just how that emotion just kept on burning inside me, and I told myself I really need to do something, because if it were not for the resources of Lake Victoria, my grandmother would not have educated her children. And that's a benefit I can enjoy, because based on what they got,
yes,
it's what I got.
Right.
And I look at the 40 million people who depend on the lake as a source of livelihood, and some of them are my relatives. Some of them are people I know. Some of them are, people I can actually, look at what they're doing and feel proud of as a fisherman or a fishmonger if it's the old women who sell fish. But if I interrogate that even further, looking at the statistics of the fish catch and how the hyacinth is choking the lake, I am worried. I am concerned. I want to just act. And the best way to do it is using my talent.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Very, very good. So then I also understand that you've just received some funding from the German government for one of your projects. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, we are humbled to actually receive about 15,000 euros, which is a startup grant for small projects by the German embassy in Nairobi. And this is actually a project where we are trying to work with about 30 beneficiaries. These are unemployed women and young men on, from informal settlements around Nairobi. But then the project is really about tailoring, but it's not the usual tailoring that we all know about. This is a different kind of tailoring where we are actually still doing something in line of TTO, which is turning threats into opportunities.
Right.
So what we do is actually, instead of investing heavily on new materials, we actually go out and collect used clothes, collect pieces of swatches from existing tailors. And it is that we bring to our studio, the sewing studio, to actually develop some beautiful things like table rags or mats or, new kind of handicraft or handmade cloth craft. And we're hoping to see how this goes on, because you know that cotton, especially cloth material, takes close to 450 years to break.
Wow.
So it's not a very good material to biodegrade and protect our habitat out there. So we are just trying to see if we can have, even if it's a 1% contribution to, removing these unwanted materials in our environment.
Very, very interesting. And so this is your first GLF, right?
It is, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how's your experience been so far? I know you're speaking later.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so far it's still a bubblish, because I am yet to meet so many people that I have seen in the program, and also go through the other plenary sessions and take out something, also give back if I can. And I'm really looking forward to building networks and hearing other powerful stories of resilience, restoration, and regeneration. So I think it's a beautiful platform that is combining people who are trying to do things up there and people who are trying to do other things and making a difference from the bottom side of the graph. It's only that I hope it can also be a conference where it is tied to something tangible, right, so that it's not just a conference where we just show up and keep talking and talking, but then there's nothing tangible to show and say that during this conference, this can actually be attached to a result of what was achieved. Is it a call to action that gave birth to a ground project, or is it a publication about something? There just needs to be, something really big at the end of this. And I'm hoping to see how all this will go. And I look forward to, also, just taking and listening from other people and seeing whether I can, marry some ideas into what we do.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for your time.
Thank you so
and
much.
for sitting here with us. And I wish you a nice 2 days here in Accra.
It is amazing already. I love Accra and I'm enjoying GLF.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for your time.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
David.
much,
Cheers.
Natasha.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was
Thank you.
nice to talk to you.